for her research and honest answers of today's school environment. We are incredibly proud of how polished and professional Avery was in representing our district. We want to thank her mother, Amy Gerard, and her twin, Oliver, for supporting Avery that day, every day, and again tonight. Now, before I give her this, Ms. Booth and Mr. Shreve, who were there, and Mr. Hickman and Mr.
Thomas, she's representing us, and I said, what school? She's at Washington High School. And I was just taking on my feet. You were very spontaneous. You knew the answers. You made our district look proud, and very much so. And I just thought you did an awesome job. And thank you for what you do for the school, for the students, and we just honored you tonight.
Thank you. First of all, let me say. And you are so sweet. Your personality is great. But I want to let you know that I am at the annual conference every year. But you related this that year. No, you were there. That you were there. Much wisdom, much knowledge. I am very proud of you. So glad that you had the wisdom to come from your soccer team in Washington and to represent Gulfport County. That's good. You never had it before. But you know I was happy to see somebody from Gulfport County. And just to know that you is always living out and I'm out there whatever I can do. Thank you for what you do. We were extremely proud, as long as I've been on the school board, and then when, and Mr. Shreve, but when Miss Booth let me know, this was the first time we had a representative from Beaufort County School. So we were so proud. It's all we could do not to jump on the stage and hug her. But we want to give you this. I think it's going to be one of many awards you already have and will continue to get. She's a senior, and now we're going to sit down and let Avery just tell you a little bit about what she experienced and how she prepared. All right?
Thank you.
Tonight, so I'm kind of just winging it. But we went out the night before. Miss Tucker, who's sitting over there, had invited me to come speak at this about a month before, a couple weeks before. And I immediately was like, yes, of course. Which I was in her class at the time, but she called me. She was not there that day, but I had no hesitations to say yes to speaking and representing Beaufort County. We went up the night before, and it was just an amazing experience to go in there and meet all these amazing people. Everyone had so much insight. We were talking about things, and I was like, this is very new to me, but I was so glad to learn from others and for others to learn from me. There were 7 people on the panel. They were all, I think, seniors in high school from all over. They weren't even close to here, but it was amazing to hear their experiences from other people that are very involved in their community. Everyone has such different insights. Some people agreed with me, some people didn't, but it was nice to have genuine conversations with people without any argument whatsoever. We went up on the stage. I think the first question that was asked was about AI, but that definitely was not the most interesting question. The one she said earlier, but
I'm here.
oh, there you go. About holding people accountable. That was definitely had an uproar from people, and I don't think people were expecting me to be as honest as I was, but I felt that my school board and everybody else genuinely wanted to hear what I thought as an involved community member and someone very involved in my school. So I was just so glad to give my insight and to hear what everyone else had to say. So thank y'all. Thank you all.
It's always great to see our young people here and get them recognized for the great work they're doing, and congratulations, Avery. And even though we are a Wolfpacker, UNC's pretty good too. All right, let's go into the discussion non-action items. Local funding request, Dr. Cheeseman, and you have an attachment.
So I've asked,
Oh, if y'all want to leave, you can leave. If not, you can stay and listen to the part. It's fine. Sorry.
Not to kick them out.
Not to kick you out, but whatever you want to do. Y'all might want to go eat supper.
They don't want to hang out with us, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, can we leave? Can we leave? They got more exciting things to do than we do.
I'm sure.
Yep. All right, Dr. Cheeseman, go ahead.
I've asked Ms. Potts, our Chief Financial Officer, to provide draft number 2 of your local funding request. And the reason being is last Wednesday I was in Raleigh as a part of the Advocacy Day, and it was brought to my attention even more so that House Bill 192 that currently sits, focusing on raising teacher pay for beginning teachers and also teachers that have 25 years or more experience, and potentially raising that to $50,000 for your beginning teachers and $68,000 for your veteran teachers above 25 years. Well, I've asked Ms. Potts to go back and put this as a line item because it does not, in fact, cover what you would have to pay on the back end in terms of FICA and other responsibilities. And so I've contacted your county manager last Friday afternoon, asked him to investigate it himself. Since you are not a cash-producing organization, obviously you would need very much help with this. And I think it's something that in the state of North Carolina, teachers absolutely need to be paid for the work that they do. I 100% agree with that. But I also think county commissioners need to be aware of what the General Assembly is considering. And so your county commissioners may need to have voice in this as well. And so in short, you see the $228,000 sitting there. That would be our projection based off of the current staff that we have. And Assistant Superintendent Mr. Doan and CFO Potts worked together on coming up with that number. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention as you consider moving through your budget right now.
Has anybody got any questions on the sheet as it's ever changing and
Yeah.
moving?
It is ever changing. So the real difference,
You're not lit up, by the way.
I know, I'm loud.
Because I was a cheerleader. Anyway, the real difference in what we've seen before is this new the salary increases, right?
Yes.
Okay. Everything else is pretty much the way we've been seeing it.
Yeah, what you see on the left-hand side of the document is all of what's really happening to you, right? Most all, meaning that the board made a decision to provide the supplements for the teacher assistants. But outside of that, everything else is really state imposed and/or when looking at property insurance and utility increases, I mean, that's really out of your hands. So to that, you would need assistance in covering that type of cost. So we've not actually put any wishes on here where, 7 years ago, we may have had, here's our needs and here's our wishes.
Right.
There are absolutely no wishes on this list, none. This is need in order to continue moving us forward. And ultimately, the board will need to decide probably next month, April. Do you want 4 columns or you just want 1 column? But we're still trying to fill things in as we are learning it happening to us and around us.
I don't have any other questions.
Anybody else? have any
Just,
other
that's a comment. I mean, what's interesting about this is in the 4 options that we're looking at, I wish they had it, there is no such thing as flat funding.
No, sir.
No.
Well, I mean, I know that
Flat
from
funding
year
is
to year.
going in backwards.
I know, that's exactly right. So even if we were at 16,139,000 last year and you ask for nothing else, we still will need 16,815,000 to break even.
Correct.
I know that doesn't sound right. I know you
No,
understand it, but I just
right.
want everybody to hear it. So if we don't ask for anything, we still need almost $700,000 additional funding just to remain because of what we call unfunded mandates.
To remain and lose 67
And
That's,
positions.
that's what I was gonna say.
67
That would save no, that's
None.
right, that saves no positions. So instead of starting out flat, we're starting out 700,000 in the hole.
And
Yeah.
67 positions.
And
is
67
gonna be
positions. This is-
painful for every school.
This is an incredibly, just incredibly depressing report.
And this,
It is.
I have more.
Well,
But
thank you for
in
adding to my
short,
misery.
This does not include your capital, just be
Oh,
mindful.
you're right. I know
That's-
this is just local funding.
That's something that will come on April 15th to you.
Right.
Anybody else got any questions?
There's nothing else to ask about that.
All right.
So moving into legislative updates.
Yep,
since one
legislative, yep, keep
led
on
to the
rolling.
other. So last Wednesday, I met with Senator Brinson, who is out of Craven County but represents Beaufort County in the Senate. And I met with Representative Kidwell, who lives here in Beaufort County and represents a few other counties around us. And we talked about some of their legislative initiatives, and we just talked about some of the concerns that we see. So I gave you the North Carolina Association of School Administrators document, so you can see, in short, some of the key House bills and Senate bills that should be brought to your attention. So it's really great reading to look through and see how it's working. But just to highlight a few that may impact us or may help us, as discussed, House Bill 192 about the raising teacher pay and the dollar allotment, but also to help with the potential teacher shortfall in terms of not having enough teachers. House Bill 106 is looking at reviewing the high-need retirement teachers program, meaning right now the state would have to work with the retirement system in order to allow retired teachers to essentially retire and then come back to teach in high-need areas. So your state legislators are looking at that. Another one to look at is Senate Bill 389 with the opportunity scholarships. And we all understand that that is not necessarily equal money coming to public schools and others. But in that bill, the General Assembly is considering adding homeschool students as a part of the funding of opportunity scholarships. And so I would encourage you to look online at the homeschool list for Beaufort County. It continues to multiply as a single student in a home can count as an entire school. And your General Assembly is currently looking at how the Opportunity Scholarship Fund, which again would be up to $800 million in 2032, just in that singular year, could go to homeschool students. And there's other bills, speaking of homeschool students, that may in fact allow them to play sports in your public schools, so just continue to watch that as well. But one that you should keep on your radar is newly released Senate Bill 754 under school calendar law that Mr. Doan and I are paying very close attention to. It gives you two options, but Senator Berger has given public schools a potential olive branch in moving the actual calendar, where there's a balance of 85 or a balance of days in each semester. You can either keep your current calendar or in fact potentially move to a new calendar should this pass into law. That would be, the start date would be the closest Monday to August 19th. And the end date would be the closest Friday to the last Monday in May. Concerns around that would be potential loss of instruction of up to 3 weeks, depending on the year. And concerns that we have locally is you might have actually 10 work days for teachers and employees even before school started for kids, because that calendar law does not change the 215 employment day rule for our employees. So to that, feel free to ask questions as we go along during the week. Give me a call and we can talk more about these. But a lot of the information is right here in the packet that I gave you, and I think it's just really important to take a look at that. And any questions for the ones that I just highlighted of the entire document?
I just have a comment, and I haven't done all of the research, but what I have been reading up through today was that in their efforts to fix one issue, they have created 3 more.
At
And
least.
so it's like, thank you so much for addressing this, but now you've tied our hands behind our back on this issue. And so how closely are they working with teachers and educators?
They don't.
I didn't think so. I just
I'm
needed
not
that said
about
out
that
loud.
far
They're
apart.
not working with you, and that's
No,
something
there are
we
no
need to
committees
lobby
for
for.
that. No, and not to sound disgruntled, but they don't. These are generally lawmakers who come together to try to cure problems, but they sometimes create a new problem.
Right.
Because we're hearing it as the public is hearing it. And so superintendents and principals especially have long lobbied for General Assembly to have conversations with the people who are in the buildings working with children directly. So in terms of committees, it doesn't happen.
Well, I appreciate what they're trying to do. I'm just saying, when you create a new problem that we didn't have before, I don't know how far we've moved the needle. And I just would like to continue to lobby that they include educators on their committees who are in the trenches, who are doing the day-to-day work, and they know whether or not some of these changes are actually going to be effective. But that's just my 2 cents.
In addressing the calendar issue, doesn't that automatically put exams back after Christmas break?
It can, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so you would, the way it's currently written in the bill, the board could choose which way you want to go, keep your current calendar and or go to this new opportunity so you can move start times, end times. The issue is that you have to have equal number of days in each
yeah.
semester.
I get it.
And that's very hard when you're looking at Veterans Day and other days and
Right.
potential weather.
Mhm.
For our friends in Western North Carolina who sadly even experienced such a tragedy with the weather, this proposal would actually remove their weather waivers. So just not really sure where it's going to go, but I wanted to put it on your attention. It's less than a week old.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Dr. Cheeseman, did you glean any information about them moving the Department of Education back to the states? Did anybody have any comments regarding how that might impact?
No, I did not glean anything on that. To be honest with you, state legislators
early.
didn't talk about it directly, but State Superintendent Mo Green addressed the superintendents just in the sense of looking at federal dollars and what those processes might look like, and internally them having to establish what those processes would look like, as it's all very new to everyone.
I just wondered if that's going to be favorable or not.
We'll see.
I can't imagine
Would you like me to answer that one for you, Don?
I can't imagine that
Good question.
anybody is going to be happy if they reduce the funding to the public schools and colleges, or could result in LEAs ending access to college courses.
And that's where you're headed.
That is not going to be a popular thing for our high schools. There are so many students. I was told last night that at D.H. Connolly, who has an enrollment of 1,800 students, 1,200 of those students also attend Pitt Community College. 1,200. So I don't have a number for Beaufort County Schools, but I would say it's pretty high.
The last time I heard, it was about 47% of BCCC's enrollment is Beaufort County schools.
I'd hate to see that end. If they are indeed earning college credits, that's a huge savings to those families when their students do go on to college. I don't understand the reasoning behind it. Maybe there's more to it. That I haven't researched, but I plan on it.
All right, is that it on that one? We're going down to Mo wants to know tour dates. I think Donald asked for this, and Dr. Cheeseman's got it.
Yeah, so the state superintendent is making his way throughout our great state. April 9th, 6 p.m. for the Northeast region at Northeastern High School. The entire community is welcome to attend from any of the communities across the state. But you can take a look at that one at Elizabeth City Pasquotank Public Schools if you'd like to go. There's no admission, you don't have to register, there's no RSVP, you just show up for it. Thank you.
5.4 Center for Safer Schools grant. You're still on the hook, Dr. Cheeseman.
Yeah, super excited and just pulling up some information for you. So want to thank Mark Doan and Greg Singleton and a few others who may have helped them, especially our technology team. So we did apply for and did receive a Center for Safer Schools grant. You cannot use this on people for employment, but we did receive $170,000 for metal detectors and cameras. And Mr. Carlton, this is what I was speaking to last week when having a conversation with you. $90,000 for teacher training about de-escalation techniques. And based off of conversations that some of you had around what can we do for children, we received $100,000 for the Character Strong program. And so that would be something that myself and the CNI team and the student services team and some of our principals and others will present to you in terms of what that looks like. But we're super excited to report that we did receive that grant. Thank you.
Correct.
All right.
Great.
5.5 Snowden Community Forum dates, Dr. Cheeseman.
Sure, just with your blessing, looking at Wednesday, April 16th at 6 p.m. Spoke with Principal Horton today, as that time is available at the school. If it's not, good for you. Please let me know. We've not made the announcement yet, and I just wanted to touch base with all of you. And then also considering on the opposite end, 16th,
What time?
Yeah, what time
6
is it?
o'clock.
6 p.m.
At Snowden?
Yes. A little bit later of a start time, just to ensure that those people who have work may be able to get off of work. But at the same time, also looking at an opportunity at Chocowinity Primary School and potentially one at Chocowinity Middle School. So families can also come and have like a mini open house and discussion, but also for Chocowinity parents who have children who attend those schools, to also to be able to ask questions around what is it going to look like with a few extra students in their school. So, and that date will be released later, but I'm also thinking about after spring break, maybe April 30th. But right now, I just want to get a tentative thumbs up of April 16th for the first Snowden Community Information Session.
Everybody good?
Are we only looking at one date in Aurora?
No, this will be the first.
Another date in Aurora plus the Chocowinity Primary and Chocowinity Middle?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
How many community forum dates do you suppose we'll have at Snowden?
2.
Just 2?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think the sooner we get going on that, the better.
And they need to be well advertised so everybody that wants to attend has an opportunity to attend.
Absolutely, that's my concern, that
Yeah.
they can be there,
If
be
you're-
convenient for people that are working and
Right.
such.
Well,
If
this
you're
gives them
comfortable
a
with
little
it-
over 2 weeks' notice.
Yeah, if you're comfortable with April 16th, then
I'm good.
Ms. Fleming
Yeah.
will help me advertise that tomorrow.
I'm getting a head nod from everybody, so.
All
yeah.
right, sounds good.
Anybody else got any questions on that?
And Dr. Horton can get the word out, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else on Snowden? Nope. 5.6 Agenda Construction, Gary Carlton, this is about the attachments.
Okay. This refers to a comment that Ray Leary brought to us at last month at the meeting. And it relates to publishing the attachments to the board agenda for the public to be able to see. I know that we've had some comments in the past where people were concerned about the timing of the release of these from the standpoint of if we distribute those or publish those attachments early, that it's just going to increase the discussion, the commentary that we get on the press, the phone calls and everything else about these items. But I know that Ray has brought this to us a couple of times, and I just thought it's time for us to talk about it. Public discourse shouldn't be distasteful. We would certainly expect that some of the discourse is going to be it's going to be constructive. It's going to be, and we hope that it's always respectful. So I think that we should take another look at that. We as a board, we should not be intimidated by this kind of discourse. It's our job as board members to represent the public, and this interaction is just required. In the name of transparency, I think there's probably some others that may feel, we'll see who has something to say about it, that we should be transparent and attach these and publish these attachments at the same time that the board receives them. I remember sitting in the audience myself before I was on the board and thinking, what are these guys, what are they talking about? Because although we had the agenda before us, we had no reference points on anything else. We had no attachments. We didn't know really what was going on. So it always put any kind of discussion or study into those things. It put it after the fact. The action more than likely may have already been taken. The other local government boards that we're familiar with here in Beaufort County, the Beaufort County Planning Commission, the Washington City Council, and the Beaufort County, the County Commission, all publish a packet at the time when they publish their agenda. And I really feel like that it would be beneficial for us to, in the name of transparency, to try to do the same thing ourselves. I know that we, as far as the agenda is concerned, I've been told that and I know this for a fact, the agenda changes up until the day of the meeting, and for whatever reason it may be. And I think we could tighten that up and get it such that we could have a pretty good handle on the attachments and the agenda items. So I propose that that all attachments be published for the public at the same time as for the board members. And I would also propose to kind of tighten this process up, that no changes be made to the agenda items after about Friday noon, so that we have time to prepare also. Any changes made to the agenda Monday or Tuesday, even the board members don't have time to prepare for these in some cases. And so I think we just need to tighten this up, get it on a good schedule. And as far as what the community wants with regard to transparency, I think that's good for us. We've done some things in the last couple of years to make the whole board process more transparent. We've improved the audio system here in this room. We've also started videoing meetings so that people who can't be here have access to what's going on with the meetings. And I think that transparency, for me, as well as I think for probably some other people, is something we should always strive for. And I would support that we begin the discussion of what this means for us, for the board.
I don't have a problem with the publishing of the attachments. We do need to make sure that our teammates can suffice that Friday noon deadline without changing. You're good? We can, thing but the personnel agenda, of course.
Yeah, well,
but
personnel, he knows wouldn't be on
Yeah.
there anyway. I have no problem with that. I mean, at some time in the past, Ms. Booth, because I look toward you because you and I have served on here a lot longer than anybody else currently. We actually had attachments going out. You remember back in the day when they gave us the books?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank God that went away. So I have no problem with that at all. So that's fine with me.
As long as the publishing is online and we're not gonna print it all
No,
out.
we're not,
because
we don't need to print, we
some
don't
of that
have the people to
policy
do it,
stuff
and we
is
don't have
30
money to do
pages
it.
long, so-
No, we don't have the money to do it, and we don't have the people to do it.
What I meant by publishing it was just making the
Be
attachment.
online.
Just put it online. Everybody's got computers and smartphones now, they can pick it right up. So I don't have a problem with that. I do have somewhat of a concern, I know you were shaking your head, yes. Not about personnel. Personnel's not going on there. Personnel doesn't, everybody here knows, personnel doesn't show up till we've approved it in closed session. And then it can be put in open session, not until then. But requiring these, no changes after Friday noon, I don't think is realistic. Because you have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. That's 4 days. And I know with Mark, well, personnel won't necessarily be showed, But there's times when Jamie is still receiving, information, verifying bids and things like that, right up to the last minute. If you require that, what's gonna happen is, you're gonna have some things that come on here that's gonna get bumped 2 weeks down the road.
That you
And when
need
we
to go
bump
ahead and
things 2
address.
weeks down the road, and I see that, I'm looking toward you, Jamie, because you just happen to be here. It's gonna cause him to get behind on issues. So that's the only part I don't support, but put it out there and let the public look at it in the same real time that we do. If it gets changed, open your computer up and look at it.
I'm in agreement
I
with
don't,
you,
I don't
Terry.
have that problem, Gary. I'm fine with it, Gary.
I'm in agreement, and I think there would only be a few things that would happen between Friday and Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah.
And so it's not like there would be 10 more things that are 10 pages long that are added. You know, there's very little tweaking that gets done between the time we get this on Friday afternoon
Right.
and Tuesday's meeting. So I agree with Terry. That's the only problem I have. I don't want to limit them to noon.
Right.
Because if at 3 o'clock, Jamie gets a bid on something that needs to be repaired, we've just told him you're going to have to wait 2.5 more weeks.
No, I want to see it the following Tuesday.
So do you
What
have a
would y'all
problem?
think? What would y'all think would be realistic? Monday noon?
I don't know that there's anything realistic. I just leave it open.
Why don't you just leave it
Just
open?
like we're doing now, because it's real time, everything's online. I can look at it here, I can look at it here. I mean, it's real time.
You address it if it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is you can always table it. If it comes to the board
Right.
and you think you've not had enough time and you have not had enough time to read something,
Well-
more than 3 days are needed, then you just ask the board to table it.
And we've already done that.
And I'm looking.
multiple times.
Well, I'm
unless
kind of
it's
looking at
something-
tonight's agenda. There's nothing on here that would change, and there's nothing, I mean, I hate to say this, there's nothing on here that I can't be prepared for in an hour to get to this meeting.
Yeah.
This is straightforward stuff that I know pretty much all about already. It wouldn't,
Most
it's not
of it
gonna
we've
take
already
me.
seen multiple times.
It's not gonna take me all day to look at this agenda and figure out should I know it or not.
We're practicable. I think the public should know what we know.
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
we signed up to represent the public. If it makes us uncomfortable, that's tough. We signed up for this job.
Yeah,
Yes,
put it
sir.
on
All right.
there. Let
So
them
we-
see it. I agree with you,
We can
Charles.
move right on
Yeah.
then. So we got the board's consensus.
can
We'll
do
start
that?
publishing it,
Yeah.
and we don't need a
No
motion or
problem.
anything, so we just
Yep.
get right on route.
Absolutely.
All right? Ray, you'll be able to look at the attachments in a couple of weeks.
You're gonna find it not near as interesting as you think.
Come with your notes.
Well, and perhaps we do, I mean, it sounds like this is the direction we're gonna go, but I don't know if it would be necessary to put some sort of disclaimer on the agenda once it's posted that it's subject to change up
Yeah.
until maybe an hour, 30, 45 minutes prior to meeting time.
Come back and look at it.
We don't, I don't think we need to sit on any information that at least we can hear if it's a first read or a change, anything that comes up, I think we at least need to hear it.
Agree. We use
at the
common
next
sense on
meeting,
that.
and we
That's
can
right.
address it moving forward if need be.
It'll be
But if
fine.
you nail it down to a time, then
Right.
we
Yeah.
box our staff into
And if it's,
really
if
bad
it's
stuff.
something major, we're not gonna be prepared to make a decision on it at that time anyway, so,
That's
I
right.
mean.
Oh, yeah. All right, let's go to the action items, move on down the agenda. Policy 3100, the timeline. Dr. Parker, you got the thing. We saw it last month, or last week. So you're looking for a direction on which timeline you would like us to take, is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
So board, you had this last week. We were able to go through it, ask questions. Dr. Parker's looking for directions. We heard from two of our principals last week on which curriculums they were needing to start with and what kind of timelines they want. So this is an action item.
I'm going to jump in, and I know if you want discussion, that's fine too. But I listened to everything that was said last week, and I absolutely value Dr. Makepeace and Ms. Vosberg's input. And I personally support us doing the science process first. And if it is going well, then let's stagger in social studies. So I don't have a problem with staggering in social studies. What I have a problem with is in many of our schools where you have a teacher that is teaching science and social studies, is our expectation they have to adopt two curriculums at the same time. That's just my feeling, because I think that's asking an awful lot. And a lot of your committee might be some of the same people, so they're trying to juggle all this, and we gotta remember they don't get paid to serve on these committees. So that's my motion, is that we adopt the science process as Dr. Parker gave us, and that we consider the staggered process of social studies as he gave us.
Why don't we do science and under policy 3100, Dr. Parker's got to come back with updates
Right.
as needed for the policy. So why don't we just take the social studies up as he's, if we can, don't have a date on it yet.
As long as we leave that open, the social studies component, let's leave that open, because as you said, if he reports back, I'm having a heck of a time getting a committee together. Well, if he can't get one together, it's gonna be even harder to get two. You know what I'm saying?
All right, Don?
My comment is our teachers are the most important thing in our country than any job, I think, in educating our children. And we've got the best here. So I believe, I still don't see why we can't stagger social studies, attachment number 3. I still don't see why we can't stagger social studies into this, because if we don't, we wouldn't have had an adopted, approved social studies curriculum in over 5+ years. To me, that's unacceptable for our kids in our schools. We know, as I said in the last meeting, we know that they're not going to get it if they don't go to college, and if they do go to college, they're not going to get any approved DPI course that I feel like we should be teaching.
Well, they're getting social studies now.
They're pulling it off the internet.
They're getting it from resources that are approved by their principals, as stated last meeting. They know what's being taught in their schools. They're not just going to Google and putting in social studies curriculum and pulling it down. I'm looking at one of my social studies teachers, and she's saying that is not the correct answer. So when you say pulling it off the internet, that's a wide range of being interpretation to what you say that our teachers are doing.
Well,
Do you agree to
whatever
that?
we go with is
But-
gonna be pulled off the internet.
But I did listen to educators that called, texted, and, from the last meeting, and they are asking for science with, let's roll into science, and then let's see how it goes, and then let's go into social studies. There is dual teachers, as there is at Northeast, P.S. Jones, and other curriculum, and you heard Alicia and Dr. Makepeace say, you're talking about dual roles of those teachers, and that's a lot for them to do.
And I appreciate that.
I
appreciate that. But I'm willing to hear Dr. Parker come back and give us an update to see if that could be done. But I just think that we have put this off long enough that we need to move forward in an approved, adopted social studies curriculum. I've heard people got their feelings hurt. I'm sorry about that. I don't know if that has something to do with some of this. I just feel strongly that we need to put our social studies curriculum forward, and
So you're thinking
Well,
social studies before, hold on, Gary's not saying, but
I'm
you want social studies before
I'm
science?
saying, I'm willing to, personally, just me, I'm not speaking for the board, just me, that I'm willing to hear Dr. Parker come back and hear from some of the teachers that we're ahead of the game.
Oh, you're talking about midway through, seeing what's going on?
Yeah, to get updates, but before we asked for it, before we asked for any updates on social studies, we weren't getting any updates, and we had agreed as a board, when we were reconsidering 3100, we agreed as a board that we would get updates, and we pretty much had to prod to get an update.
There was no curriculum committee formed and no curriculum council formed at the time. This is the
we
first
didn't
time.
get much, we understood that they were working on science, but we didn't get much of an update on that, other than I remember Dr. Cheeseman saying, well, we're looking at science right now, when Gary brought it up.
We never charged our superintendent and Dr. Parker with a curriculum adoption after we revamped policy 3100.
you're talking about science.
We never
Right.
we never charged them with either one.
Right,
Science
I
or
know,
social
that's
studies.
what we're
so
looking at now.
there's no,
Yeah.
until you charge them, which is what we're working through now, to go do a curriculum adoption, how can they give an update?
Well, just an update on, you know, what our intentions are, how about that?
Okay.
What our intentions are?
Their intentions are irrelevant. It's up to us as a board to prompt them to adopt the curriculum. It doesn't matter what their intentions or plans are. That's what we do as a
But at the
board.
same time, Daniel, Ms. Walker said, well, Mr. Parker will come back and give us updates. That's the last word we
There's
heard.
nothing to
All right,
update.
Gary's next.
I would favor a staggered approach. I don't think they have to be done end to end. That sheet number 3 that shows the first staggered report shows science study beginning in May of '25 with an end date of June of '27 and full implementation of the science curriculum for our school year 27-28. And social studies on that same schedule with a begin date of March 26, an end date of June 28, and implemented for the 28-29 school year. So we would have, if it's possible, and I know that we have to be flexible with what the principals and what the teachers and the committees can do, but I would like to see us work toward that, because we would have a science curriculum by June of 2027, and we would have a social studies curriculum by June of 2028. I know that's pretty aggressive, based on what we heard, but I also heard them say that some of the things like Don said, some of our science textbooks and all are practically 20 years old.
Well, Gary,
And I
that's
think we
what I
need to
was saying.
move aggressively toward an end date, but I also realize that we have to be flexible with what can be accomplished. But I think we ought to sit and determine a schedule and see if we can work toward that.
Well, that's what I was presenting, that we would start the science, and barring a complication, and that's all we can do is be flexible. If there's a complication, that's what Dr. Parker and Ms. Atwell will bring back to, Peters, I'm sorry, bring back to us that there is a hiccup or whatever, and we've got to be flexible. I agree with that. I'm willing to do the staggered as long as it is working out so that we can reassure our teachers that all this is coming their way. And this is not a cram down. We're not going to force things on them that they can't do, but I'm okay with that as long as Dr. Parker can make that happen.
Ms. Walker, we're not talking about a cram down.
No, that's why I said I don't want it to be.
We're
And
not
I think
talking about
if you try to adopt two at the same time, it can become a cram down to teachers, because that's a lot for them to do. But I think if we stagger it, you've got social studies coming in as they're kind of putting the gravy on top of the science. That's just that, but that's just me. That's just me.
Well, this
Do
is,
you want to make a motion on that, or?
no, let me finish
Terry, go
talking.
first.
So that's just you, so this is just me. Let's start science. There's always another option. Let me offer this one up to you. Let's go ahead, start your science. You already have a year of research, demos in the school, in being taught in the SAVIS curriculum that was selected by the schools, by the committee. Get you a new quote, bring it back to this board, and that solves your curriculum social studies problem.
I'm not opposed to that. I would like to see a science and social studies curriculum simultaneously as much as anybody on this board. And I started out strong on that approach. I've done some homework. I've talked with some educators. I've talked with some teachers. We sit here as a board even prior to my coming on the board. I've heard each and every one of you guys do it. We sit here at midterm reviews, end of the year reviews. We look at scores. We look at where we are. And a popular question is, what can we do to help you as a board? I've heard it time and time again. We're being told what we can do as a board to help our educators move forward. The consensus is science. I feel I'm okay with a staggered approach as long as we approach it accordingly in a reasonable amount of time. But in talking with some of the folks that were on the previous curriculum adoption team, I think we're going to have a hard time finding people that are willing to say, hey, I'll do that, simply because of the way they were treated in some regard. As well as something's going to go lacking somewhere. As you take a teacher, an administrator, anybody out of the classroom, they're going to go lacking. They're telling us what they need. They need science. I've heard it over and over and over. So, I think it's important that we consider that. I'm okay with approaching, kind of looking at social studies down the road. But after having some good conversations, I think asking for two at the same time is simply too much, whether it's
Okay,
staggered or
then I'd
not.
like to respond to
Go,
Daniel.
What we're doing by selecting these curriculums, right now, the reason why we're selecting new curriculums to begin with, let's just drop the timelines for right now, is we have to get the best curriculum out there for the students. Now, I know that's what the teachers have in mind, that's what we all have in mind, but by kicking a can down the road, if there's some kind of formula where it's done, that's not benefiting the students. So I want to keep it tight, and I want to keep it on a staggered approach. One completed in 27, one completed in 28. And if there are major stumbling blocks along there, let's deal with them. But I think that we're only hurting the students if we don't push this forward.
I have two school-age children that have gone through social studies and science without a curriculum. I think the educators have done a great job. Now, do we need a standard curriculum? Absolutely. But I don't think we're kicking anything down the road. I mean, we've kicked around policy 3100 for the past 2 years. And it seems like we don't even know how the policy works. So I think we need to find some clarity. We need to understand the direction we're going, and we need to be mindful to the people that are going to have to make this happen.
I've heard Daniel make a couple of comments at the last couple of board meetings about people getting their feelings hurt, teachers. And, I'm sorry about that, but I think where the mistake was that I see is that one of the curriculums, Dr. Parker, that y'all brought forward said, how will you dispute the church?
That was not part of one of the
That was
curriculums.
active
Hold on.
That
classroom.
was
Hold on,
not
you're
part
not
of
letting
what
me-
they brought to
let
us.
me finish.
I'm so
Let me
sick of
finish.
Well, you can
That
finish
was-
all
that
you
was-
want.
all right, let
That
me
was
finish.
not
Hold on.
part of the curriculum
I
that
beg
they
your
brought
pardon.
to us.
I'd like
That
to
was
finish-
active
I'd like to finish
classroom,
my
and you did
comment.
not bring active
I would
classroom
like
to
finish
us.
my
Let's let him finish.
comment,
Oh, I
please.
want you to finish.
All right,
I'd
go
like
ahead.
to finish my comment.
Please
before
do.
You jump in.
All right, go ahead, Don.
Okay, that was one of the things that we saw. We get board docs. We were looking at it before we came to the meeting. That was one of the curriculums that was up there, one of 4 curriculums that was brought forth. Mr. Williams, I heard you say the same thing, that they shouldn't have brought that.
They should not, and they did not bring it to us to be
Let me
approved,
finish.
Donald.
If you will
Let me
listen to
finish,
what- hang on
please.
one second.
Let
If
me
you-
finish.
if
Let
you
me
listen-
finish.
If
say
you
that.
listen to
Let
what
me
the
finish.
presenter said
him
that night,
finish.
this
Let
is
me
the
finish.
reason we did not pick this
Right.
curriculum, because it had this in the textbook.
And all I'm saying.
The presenter said that.
You're
and-
not letting me finish.
All right, go
All
ahead.
I'm saying is that if that hadn't have been a part of the considerations that was brought forward, there wouldn't have been any problem.
But shouldn't we be
And
smart
what-
enough
what-
when
what
they
I'm saying
say?
is, let me finish. What
No.
I'm saying is that turned people off. That
But it
turned the
was not the
community off.
curriculum
I
that was.
understand that, but-
But it was not the curriculum that was
That we
presented
have-
to us to be.
I
We have to be
understand
smart
that.
enough when they
But-
said,
but-
we didn't consider this one for
To
many
listen.
reasons.
The
We didn't
reason they
pick it.
didn't
We gotta
consider
be
it is
smart
because
enough
it
to
had
go,
that in the
okay.
curriculum. Why would you dispute the church? That's why they kicked it to the side. That was the slide that they said that
That's
they did not correct.
I'm just saying, if it wasn't part of it, you wouldn't have had all the outbursts that came.
But-
before.
Well, that just showed the ignorance of some people that came here during those meetings and rant and rave
all
like
I'm
a
saying.
person. I
That's
agree
all I'm
with you.
saying.
I do agree with you. That's
But I've
true.
heard
I
Daniel
did tell you they should have never
refer to it
put that
2
slide
times
in
now.
there.
And I'm sorry, he's called me out.
But let me finish. Hold on, let me finish. But if they hadn't have come here and acted like a complete crazy person with postcards or big boards or whatever you want to call them, we would probably be having Sabbaths right now in our schools. And let's go back a few minutes. I was not joking. I know I do a lot of that. That was not me being some smart aleck. You bring it back to us. You go back, you've got a year invested. The county board people, not this board, but the committee, chose that for us to look at, and we turned it down because of some of the misrepresenting fiasco that happened in our meetings back then. If y'all don't remember, I do, and it was completely out of line. So you know what? You've got a year already invested in it. Go back, polish it up a little bit, dust it off a little bit, see if there's any improvements to it, bring it back to us again. There's no need starting the process. Okay, when I look at the state DPI approved curriculums, there are about 4 or 5 pages that are dedicated to SAVIS. Am I saying that right? Savas, SAVIS, however you want to say it.
Yes, sir.
What makes me think that these smart people are going to come up with a different idea this time when they come back? So I'm going to go make them go through another whole year of doing the same thing again? Other than that, my vote is going to be move forward science and be done with it.
Go Daniel, you got it next.
Donald, I appreciate you pointing out the comments I've made in the past couple meetings, okay? Was the presentation with Savas, should that slide have probably been removed? Absolutely. But the slide that specifically says, I have it right here and I'll show it to you. It's actually the presentation that was presented that night. How will you dispute the church? Directly beside that slide, it says active classroom. This is the slide that was presented that night. So is that or is that not the basis of why we threw a social studies curriculum out that happens to be the #1 social studies curriculum in the state? I'm not saying it's an end-all be-all. I'm not saying it's perfect.
We didn't throw it out. They tabled it.
What, I mean,
They tabled it.
on what basis?
Okay.
right.
Hold on.
All right.
Hold on.
Timeline.
No, hold on,
Larry,
Mr. Chairman. Go ahead. Let
You
Gary
got,
speak.
you got.
Gary.
No, Gary
Okay.
can go.
I did my research during that time period
I did
also.
mine too.
And I saw
A lot of
I
pride
saw
stuff in there.
information from their website that included blogs and everything else that included a lot of social theory.
And I don't agree with that.
And we don't, and I do not want social theory involved in either science
I agree.
or history or civics. Bring me a science, history, civics curriculum that is absent of social theory. Social theory, in the research that I did during the time when Savas was being evaluated, is what turned me off. I did not want to see that social theory interjected into any of our curriculum.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
All right, we're on, let's get back on task. We're on a timeline. We need a timeline for, and to give our curriculum team a direction.
Can I amend my motion? I would like to make a motion that Dr. Parker brings back to us as soon, I'm not going to put a time on that because we have a meeting in 2 weeks, but as soon as he is able to bring us back the timeline to start the science curriculum study. Get your committee together. That has to come through us as well. Let's get started on that. My motion is for that. I am willing for, as that starts, for us to be flexible and consider possibly adding the social studies toward the end of that.
Do I got a second on that motion?
Second.
All right. Does everybody understand the motion?
I'd like to amend that myself.
All right, good.
It's my motion.
I'd like to amend her motion to say that the schedule as published is going to be a staggered schedule with both science and social studies on it, just so that we have a framework to start from.
I agree with that.
That wasn't my motion. It was my original motion until everything got
But
changed
this
a
is,
little bit.
I'm asking that we amend your motion.
You have to accept that.
I don't have to.
No, we
accept
got
No,
to
you
vote on
don't
the
have to
amendment.
accept it.
Oh,
You
oh.
have to, if it becomes an amendment, your motion, you have to accept it.
Right. Here's my concern. That's why the motion I just made, I would like to stick with, because I think we're all grown-ups in here, and I think that we are capable of coming back to Dr. Parker in 6 months, 9 months, whatever, and go, okay, how's it going? Give us an update, give us a report. Now we'd like to add. We're capable, tell me if I'm wrong, we are capable of saying, okay, now we want to add it. I don't want to pigeonhole him or any of them with a date. except for start science. That's my motion. I'd like
If
to
you look
stick
at the
with that.
bottom end, the last sentence on paragraph A, on policy 3100, the CAO, Dr. Parker in this position, shall provide progress updates to the board throughout the adoption process. So he's going to, in the policy, he's going to be bringing back the adoption process and how it's going. We can make it through.
I think what Gary's trying to say, and I'm not trying to step in here, and I kind of agree with what he's saying, to some extent. I think you just want some terminology in there to say that it would be possible we stagger these two curriculums if necessary, is that, or if possible, is that correct?
I don't
mean,
mind the word stagger. I just don't want to give a date, like, January 2027, you better be starting social studies.
I am trying to get it on a schedule. I'm not as rigid on the dates, but if we leave social studies, a review out of your motion, then it can be just overlooked.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'd rather have it
Yeah.
included in the motion
Okay?
under a staggered type formula.
As long as we're saying staggered,
understanding-
but not giving a date.
Yeah, I'm okay
Understanding
with
that
Yeah,
the
that's
date
fine.
may have to
Okay.
be
We're
flexible.
gonna take
Right.
a look at it and decide at that
Right,
point.
right.
Yeah,
I'm
of
fine
course.
with that.
I'm just not
And
willing
so-
to do a date.
So
good with that.
you know, I've got an amendment up that's an explanation of what my amendment means.
Nobody got a second to that amendment?
Ms. Booth,
second.
oh,
I'll second
to my
his
amendment.
amendment.
All right.
And can I say one thing? In no way do I think, and I hope 9 board member, or 8 tonight, think that our social studies and civics teachers are not teaching the standards, because they are. They are teaching the standards. Whether they are pulling them off DPI, and let's be real, whatever we adopt is gonna be pulled off the internet. You know that, right? Because they don't really do textbooks anymore. So you can't say, I don't want them pulling it off the internet, or we won't have any curriculum. But I don't want the public to think that our teachers are not teaching the standards, because they are.
Well,
And I
when I say pulling it off the internet, and when that's made, that's a very broad thing.
Yeah,
You can
right,
go to Google and put anything in there, and you get 10 different reasons.
Yeah.
Right.
So
They
when
know
you
what the
say, you
standards
gotta
are.
watch how you say pulling it
Right.
off the internet.
Okay,
So, all right,
we've
we
got
got
a
a
motion.
motion and an amendment,
And
so I
by
gotta
the way,
handle the amendment first.
we're not talking about what the teachers are doing or not doing in this. We're just talking about the schedule.
Right.
All right, so we gotta handle the amendment first. So the amendment is to come back with a staggered approach, science first, social studies date. Dr. Parker will bring that back to
To be
us.
determined. To be determined.
Yeah,
Yep, all right.
that's fine.
All in favor of that amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. So now we now have the original motion to start the science curriculum adoption process
No,
Yes.
Yes.
with the
with the,
amendment.
Right, we did.
you have to include the
With
amendment
the
in
approved
that.
amendment.
I'll make
With the
that
improved
motion.
amendment.
I already
Okay.
made that motion.
He's already made that motion.
Yeah.
I gotta
And
vote on
Ms.
that
Did
motion.
anybody
And
have a
Ms.
second?
Booth seconded
Yeah,
it.
we already had a second.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're good.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. 6.2. Everybody's seen the field trips on there.
Yeah. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
You
Terry.
ready? I move we go into closed session pursuant to General Statutes 143, 31811 to present disclosure of confidential personnel files under General Statute 115C 321.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I bet y'all never have anybody on your staff that disagrees.
Then you're not doing your job.
Then you're not doing your job. Terry said, I didn't say that, he said.
Well, if you don't have some disagreement sometime, everybody
That's
disagrees.
how we learn. That's how we learn.
Everybody disagrees.
That was entertaining.
So who are we hiring tonight?